Hi all, I'm Alicia, and today I'm going to be discussing Ghosts of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare, as well as several other authors who have helped her with her other two novella collections. Over here, we have Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, 2015, and The Bane Chronicles, 2013, and then this one is from 2019. And in my opinion, this is the best one of the three. I absolutely think you should read it if you haven't. If you're not familiar with what this book is about, it follows Jem all the way from 1901 to 2013. So you get to see when he's a Shadowhunter, yes. Sorry, when he's a silent brother and Will and Tessa's kids are young, and you get to see Jem's journey, like watching, Will and Tessa live out their lives, which is extremely sad and literally made me cry. And you get to see when Will dies, what Jem does after Will dies, how he kind of makes his way back to Tessa, what he does after he's no longer a silent brother, trying to find the lost Herondale line. Oh my god, and it sets up the Wicked Powers trilogy perfectly, and I am so excited for this final series in the Shadowhunter Chronicles. Like, oh my god, like it's just building up to an epic finale, and I cannot wait. So, if you have not read it, you do not want to be spoiled, and I recommend you don't watch this video yet. And if you have, stay and we can discuss. One of the very first stories in this collection is we learn Matthew's backstory, why he drinks so much, why he's so upset, and why he hates himself, and it was so sad. So basically, what happens is Matthew gets this truth serum from the Shadow Market. He gives it to Charlotte because he wants her to admit that Gideon is his father and not Henry, because Alistair, I hate Alistair. Alistair has told him that Henry can't have children. Because he's in a wheelchair, he's incapable of having sex with Charlotte, of fathering children, and Matthew believes him. He's like, oh my god, I do look like Gideon. He holds all of that inside, and it's so sad. Like, I wish he would open up to James, and I wish Jem knew, and he tried to talk to Matthew about it. Matthew's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I just wish Jem, even though he is kind of emotionally removed as a silent brother, he would have talked to Will or Tessa about it, would have talked to Charlotte and Henry, or maybe even forced Matthew to have this conversation. Like, Matthew, you can't keep this to yourself. Like, you need to tell someone, or I will. I have not read Chain of Iron yet. I'm starting that literally probably tonight after I film this, because I am so excited for it. But I am really curious of whether Matthew comes clean about that. And I mean, obviously he has to in order to heal from it, but I am just so excited for all of that to unfold. It was such a sweet moment when Cecily and Gabriel got Anna the boys' clothing for the first time, and Anna's like, oh my god, you accept me. And that whole conversation where Cecily and Gabriel see Anna in the clothes for the first time, and they're like, oh my god, dear, you're right, she does look fabulous. And I'm like, my heart, I'm so happy for Anna. I love when Jem sees Anna and Matthew walking outside at night, and for a split second he thinks Anna is Will, because she has like the hair and the eyes same color as Will. And he gets so nostalgic, and for a split second he's like, oh my god, like that's Will. And then he gets thinking, he's like, was that really that long ago? He gets so nostalgic, and it's so heartbreaking. Oh, I miss Will so much. This whole novella collection, really at its heart, I might have already mentioned this, is about loss and grief, and how we move on after the people that we love have died, and what it means to be human and to feel like you can't have that joy without pain. And it was so well done, and honestly, like, this collection did make me cry like 3 times, like tears running down my face, not just tear up, like literally crying. One of the first times I cried was when Will is old, he's like on his deathbed, and Jem is talking about being left behind. And I just kept thinking of how sad it was that Will has to grow old while the girl that he loves, Tessa, and Jem, his like best friend ever, his parabatai, don't age with him. And that is just so sad to me. This is the passage I'm talking about. It's on page 134. But Will's hair was white now, and Jem was no longer Jem. He was Brother Zachariah. A few nights ago, he had sat at Will Herondale's bedside and watched his old friend struggle to draw a breath. Jem's hand on the coverlet was the hand of a young man still, and Tessa, of course, would never grow old. How must it seem to Will, who loved them both, that he must go on so far ahead of them? But then, Jem had left Will first, and Will had had to let him go. It would only be fair when, soon, Jem would be the one left behind. Inside his head, Brother Enoch said, "It will be hard, but you will be able to bear it. We will help you bear it." "I will endure it because I must," Brother Zachariah said. Brother Zachariah, not Jem. One of my favorite scenes is when Amelia, who's training to be an Iron Sister, is in the Shadow Market with Jem, and she makes a deal with Belial, this demon, to give Jem this one last night with Will when they're both young. And it kind of says, for once, they don't have this shadow hanging over them. They don't have, Jem's yin fen addiction. They don't have Will's supposed curse hanging over them. It just made me so sad that they'll never get to spend their lives together. They never got to grow up together. And Jem never got to show Will Shanghai, where he grew up, and the city that he loved. Or the fact that Will never gets to see Jem's eyes again. After he becomes a silent brother, his eyes are permanently closed. And his voice, Will never gets to hear him speak again. Because he mind talks, like all the silent brothers do. So it's heartbreaking to know that at such a young age, they only got to spend such a brief period of time together. And that was, again, with the yin fen and the curse. And after that, they never got to spend their lives together like they were supposed to and like they should have been able to, and it's heartbreaking. A scene that bugged me was when Celine and Steven were in the shadow market, and Steven kind of gets hit with this love potion spell thing, and he kisses Celine, and Celine lets him, knowing that he's married to Amethyst, knowing that he doesn't love her, and she lets him, and I was like, Celine! Although, then it kind of gets into why Celine wants to be with Steven, even after he rejects her, and she is such a broken person. All of Valentine's followers are broken. Celine doesn't stop her parents' deaths, and she says that she wants to be with Steven because she wants to live in pain. Which, I get that she's punishing herself, but this seems so selfish. She's literally just thinking about herself. She wants to be with him. She wants to be the one living in pain, but it's not just her life she's ruining. She's also ruining Steven's. And I know that Steven obviously has to agree to this too. He has to agree to marry Celine. He has to agree to leave Amethyst. Valentine can't force him to do that, but we all know that Valentine is manipulative and abusive and is probably, blackmailing Steven into doing whatever he wants, like he does with everyone. At the same time, even though this whole situation was, super fucked up, it was cool to see Jace's parents. Obviously they didn't love each other, but it was cool to see how they met and how they ended up being together when, obviously, Steven loved Amethyst. Speaking of Jace, when Jem is talking to, little 10-year-old Jace after he saves him on the ship, and Jace is talking about how he doesn't want to parabatai because Valentine, aka, his father, Valentine, told him that parabatais are weakness, that loving is weakness, and Jem tells him that, obviously, his relationship with Will made him better and stronger, and, it made him so much better than he could ever be alone, and that kind of opens up Jace's mind and heart to agreeing to be, or even, suggesting being Alex Parabatai, and knowing that Jace might have not have ever been Alex Parabatai without Jem telling him that was just such a cool little detail, and it was also heartwarming. And again, with this theme of loss and grief, when he tells Jace this, Jem is talking about, or thinking about, how he carved the initials WH, Will Herondale, into his staff the very first night he was in the Silent City. And I absolutely love this quote from Jem at that moment. Not a quote, he didn't say it out loud, but he's thinking it. And again, I'm reading from my notes. But he says, he had been robbed of his death, that death was preferable to being severed from love and warmth. I feel like I keep using the words heartbreaking and heartwarming, but honestly, those are the two extremes of this book, and there's no in between. I just briefly want to touch on the story of when Alec finds Raffi in the shadow market and brings him back to Magnus and they adopt him, because it's such a cute story, and I love how they found him, and I love how Alec is just so gentle and calm, and we get to see another side of him that we don't usually get to see, just because we don't get a lot of his POV in the original Mortal Instruments series, so it was really nice to have his perspective. And can we just appreciate the fact that Max is the chillest kid ever. He's not scared of anything. And obviously this is because Magnus summons up demons to just chill in the house, so Max isn't scared of them when he gets older. But it's just so funny to see Raffi just glaring at Max, and Max is completely yay, there's a friend in the house. This theme of love and loss and what it means to be human goes full circle in this book, because at the beginning, obviously Will is old and Tessa and Jem are both immortal and they're gonna lose him, and they do lose him. But then at the end of the novel, Jem is not immortal anymore and Tessa is, and he makes a comment that loss is what it means to be human, and Tessa bursts into tears. She's going to outlive Jem just like they both outlived Will. And I think it was just such an interesting contrast, because Tessa is immortal, she's always been immortal, and Jem was immortal but is no longer. So he kind of understands how she's feeling, and he feels bad. He doesn't want to have kids because he doesn't want Tessa to go through that pain. He does want kids, but he doesn't bring it up to Tessa because he doesn't want her to have to reject it or to say yes and then have to live through that pain regardless. And it's just, I think it's such an interesting perspective to have, that Jem was immortal, is no longer mortal, so we get that kind of flipped perspective, that dual perspective. I just really enjoyed it. I loved seeing Tessa and Jem and little baby Mina and Kit and Church all together and like this little family that they've built, and it was so heartwarming to end that whole arc of loss and grief and losing Will and finding each other again. And it was the perfect ending, honestly, for them to come together and like form a new family. And Will isn't forgotten. He's still there with them. They remember him every single day. They're always thinking of him. And instead of being sad about it forever, and it is sad, but like it's also joyful. They remember so many good things about him, and it brings them peace and happiness to know that he lived a very full, happy life full of love with, you know, his wonderful children and friends and Tessa and everything. And it was a really good way to end it. So the last story in this collection sets up the Wicked Powers trilogy, and I am so excited that like the whole Shadowhunter Chronicles, all of these different series that Cassie has written are like building up to this one final finale series with all of the characters. Like everything that's happened in all of these other series has led to this moment, and it's so exciting. So we have Janice or Janus, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but we have this alternate version of Jace from Thule, and you know, his original plan was to take over Jace's place in like the real world in this version, in this reality, and be with Clary. But obviously that's not going to work because everyone's gonna know in like 2 seconds that he's not actually Jace because they're completely different people. So we have Janus, who's this complex, not completely evil, kind of good person, because he does love Ash, I think, and he did want to kill Sebastian, who was like controlling him in Thule. And we have Ash, who is also a complex character because he genuinely believes no one loves him, because he has this type of magic where it makes people around him completely 100% like loving and loyal towards him. He's not completely evil either. Like he does have that like desire to be loved and to love other people. And then we have Kit, who's this long lost Herondale, as well as I think the true like descendant, true like heir of the Unseelie and Seelie thrones, because he's descended from the daughter of the Unseelie king and the Seelie queen, like the most powerful fairy in the world, basically. She was. Obviously she's no longer alive, but yeah, like that's so exciting. So I honestly can't wait for the Wicked Powers. Like it's gonna be epic. So much shit is gonna go down. We have all of these interesting, complex characters and all of these complex plot lines that have like been like woven through and like building up through all of these other series into like this one epic finale series, and I'm just so excited. So yeah, that was it for my very rambly discussion video today about Ghost of the Shadow Market. But if you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and I will see you next time with another video. Thanks guys, bye!